All right, folks, been wanting to do a video on bicycles and cars, and I'm going to start off with my favorite around town bicycle, one that kind of came into my life out of nowhere. I was working at a bike shop and a lady came in complaining the bike she had was difficult to go on long rides, it was uncomfortable, she needed something else, and she wanted something that was tall enough, and she was tall, she was like 6'3", and she didn't want something expensive. We had a used Specialized rock hopper outside with a rigid fork, and I'm like, well, this would probably fit you. It was a bigger bike, and I had no idea what bike she was riding. Well, she came in, she bought it, fit her great. It was only about a $250 used bike the bike shop had gone through and just tuned up and put new cables on and what have you. And she says, I don't know what to do with the other bike I have. And I go, well, bring it by. Maybe I have a friend that needs a bike, because I did know of a few people that were looking for bicycles that were kind of broke. And she shows up with this. It's a Bridgestone MB-3. And I look at it and I go, well, I know why you're uncomfortable. That thing is made for someone my size. I'm 5'8". You're like 6'2.5". I said, I would be happy to take it off your hands, though. I can make it into a great bike to get around. And she was really cool about it. She said, yeah, go for it. Thank you for all your help. And what I proceeded to do was change a lot of things on it, because when it came in, it was, for one, it had a shock in the front, and I didn't want that Judy shock on there. I thought it was horrendous. I wanted that off. And it was without fenders, but it had all the good Dior drivetrain on it, which was nice. Handlebars, of course, were flat, and I found them rather uncomfortable. I put an adjustable quill stem on it, which to some that may not be the best choice, because there's always this fear over time that this will loosen up from shock and could fall. I've never seen that to be a problem. I'm not really riding this bike that aggressively, so that might be part of it. I really just wanted to be upright and comfortable. I've got a bad bike. I mean, bad back. Great bike, bad back. Albatross bars were put on it, which are one of my favorites. I have a few favorites, but these are probably my kind of go-to with a lot of commuting bikes. You'll notice the parts I put on this bike, I didn't get super nerdy with it. I didn't go and get a Brooks saddle, or buy a Chris King headset, or Nitto stem and Nitto rack and all that kind of stuff. I love that stuff, don't get me wrong. But I wanted this to be a bike that I can enjoy riding around without someone trying to steal parts off of it all the time. So you're not going to find that on this bike. Not my thing. The walled basket was pulled out of the trash at the bike shop I was working at. Somebody just tossed it in there, and I couldn't figure out why, but it's like the ideal size walled basket. I really like these ones. I think that's a 139. I don't think it's a 137. I think they're called a 139, a little bigger one. But all the parts were there. It even had the tag on it still. I guess they just thought it was garbage and they didn't want it, but I took it for free. And I added the bell, of course. Always important to have yourself a bell with a around town bike. I put a silo light in the front. I just wanted to be able to get on and go for the most part. This has a great beam on it. It's a generator light. It's the premium Lumitech IQ silo light. And I put an Alphine hub, not the fanciest hub out there. It's not a Sun hub or something, but it's very reliable. It works very well. Had the the wheels built from another bike shop employee buddy of mine. Paid him to do it. Did a great job. I got some Rhino lights. These are great wheels, and made by Sun Rims, so they should be tough. And I do believe that these are 32 spokes, so I didn't go for the real high spoke count. Again, Dior LX. Bike is very dirty right now. It's like a spider web happened the last couple of days since I've ridden it. No Schwalbe tires. These are another kind of underrated tire in my opinion. These are Bontrager H2s. They are a hard case tire. This is a thicker one, a 26 by 2.0. Not the probably the thickest you could put in here, but it's a nice, good sized tire. It feels very stable with these tires, and they're very tough. I have not had one flat, and I'm not even kidding you, in 3 years. And, you know, I don't ride the bike that heavily. I ride to get around town, you know, under 5 miles, but still over 3 years, that's a long time. Then I just put a nice little rechargeable light in the back. Wouldn't mind adding wiring and powering off the hub as well. I just haven't gotten around to that. It hasn't really been that big of a deal. I can grab that one real fast. I just didn't want to have 2 sets of lights to grab. The 21 speed works really well. I mean, during this era, 7 speed is kind of a thing. And I like the idea of a 1x in some ways, but I wasn't going to change really good equipment that's reliable unless it's, you know, it needs to be replaced. And I still probably would stick with the 3 ring because, I don't know, that's what came on the bike and it works well. I did have to replace one of these. One was gummy, and luckily I found one of them on eBay for like 20 bucks. Not real thrilled with the whole combination units that started coming later in the days. Don't get me wrong, I do like index shifting as well in some of the earlier Bridgestones. I think it's very nice. Again, I'm not going to change something that works well. I do kind of like rapid fire as well for different reasons. Of course, you have your coffee cup holder right here. That's really important. It's a critical thing to add to my bikes these days. Gotta have a few Portland stickers. Kind of represent your love of bicycling in the area. And I put Bontrager fenders again. I was working at a Trek store, so a lot of Bontrager stuff there since Bontrager's by Trek. But they make good quality stuff. I didn't put any nice velo wheel type style fenders on it, you know, no metal fenders. I just stuck with what I knew would be utilitarian, and I actually think these are pretty cool. They have a little flap in the back as well for mud, and they're very easy to dial up. That's one of the benefits of buying these Bontrager fenders. I think they're amongst the easiest fenders to install on a bike. Pedals, I like these pedals. Just basic large platform BMX pedals. I particularly like Black Label. They've got nice bearings in them. These are, you know, 3 years old. They spin really well, and they're sturdy. And if you ever, I don't know, throw your leg into it, and that does happen, it doesn't hurt like a metal pedal. So I'm kind of a fan of plastic pedals, even though there's this retro grouch part of myself that likes the Seke and the MKS and things like that. I wouldn't be against getting those types of pedals. But not only these, like, you know, 12 bucks or something to buy a set, which is great, but they're comfortable. They've got a nice platform, and you don't end up scratching the hell out of your leg. So that's cool too. This fork is like, it's really kind of a trip. It was a Trek fork, and it's a butted chromoly one. I'm sure it's very similar to what Bridgestone originally put on their bikes that didn't have the shock when it was the rigid ones. But I found this fork in a shelf at the bike shop I was at, like randomly sitting there. And I was just shocked. When I got this bike, it was almost like it was meant to be. Yes, the bike is really dirty right now, but the color is pretty much identical. I mean, I can barely tell any difference at all, if any. And I just felt so lucky to find that, because otherwise I was really gonna have to search around for a fork, maybe put a Surly one on there. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. But yeah, immediately that evening, bam, that went on. We put some new brake pads, kept the cantilevers. I think they work really well when they're dialed in. I do see some benefit of switching to V brakes, and if, you know, they were messed up, I might have considered that. But you know, they do work extraordinarily well. Cage, I was just kind of sitting around, and I did add my Pletcher though, because I do find these kickstands very handy. They're very utilitarian. It's great when you're loading up. I could use this bike to tour. I could take it to camping trips. I'm probably going to do that this summer. Take it on a little Trek overnight camping trip. And it's great for hauling some groceries. Oftentimes I'll carry some orderly bags in the back as well. But I really think that there's really a kind of a, not only a great interest in bikes from Bridgestone, I've noticed, because they do make very good quality bikes, and it was Grant Peterson's thing, of course, very renowned bicycle builder. And I am part of the Bob group, Bridgestone Owners Bunch. But I think in general, older, early 90s mountain bikes are being recognized more as just being a very useful utilitarian bike that is bomb-proof. It's great for riding around town. It's great for, hey, there's a sudden trail to ride on, no big deal. I've got fat tires, got a sturdy bike. I can just kind of just jam through that single track or whatever it is. You know, gravel grinding, they can be great for that. You can set them up as gravel bikes. And they're great commuter bikes, really comfortable. And the steel frames from this era are also very comfortable. Share in the comments anything about these bikes. I hope they continue being affordable. I mean, you can still buy inexpensive old steel frame bikes of, you know, I get something that's kind of at least middle of the road. For something with like Dior on it, that would be your best bet from that era. A lot of the newer bikes started having more alphine. It's just the same as a little bit older Dior. That tends to happen with components. Next set that comes up is just as good as the ones below it the year or a few years prior. And I just put a commuter gel saddle on there too. It's comfortable. Again, I don't want to have to cover a saddle in the rain that's leather, or condition it with special conditioners or anything like that, or protectants. I'm just not into that. But this is the first video I'm doing on bicycles. There'll be more to come. Probably going to be talking about bicycles and basic and fun older cars, boxy cars, and utilitarian bikes. Have a lovely day. This is a rare sunny day in Oregon in February, which I'm really appreciating. Cheers.